What is the greatest EFF you've given to someone? I made my ex permanently homeless because she falsely accused me of a crime. A few years ago, my now ex-wife filed a false restraining order against me. She was living with her boyfriend, we were getting a divorce, in another state at the time, and had decided that a false restraining order was an excellent way to be awarded full possession of the vehicle I had purchased. We only had one key to the vehicle, and she was in possession of both the key and the vehicle. This is important later. I was exceedingly upset that she had knowingly filed a false restraining order, and upon being served, I immediately submitted my appeal and request for a hearing. I contacted my company, and had them print off all my Department of Transportation GPS logs, as well as company internal vehicle tracker data. I also printed out my personal GPS tracking data from the navigation system I was using. So not only did I have federally accredited logs showing exactly where I was, or more importantly, was not. I also had two very detailed systems information showing my exact speed, cardinal direction, and other pertinent information. Recorded in 2-minute and 30 seconds intervals. After I had compiled my entire body of evidence, I wrote a 3-page testimony to read to the court/judge to assist in explaining the entirety of the data, as well as present my side of the appeal. Almost 30 days passes, and I realize that upon adjournment of the case, and subsequent exiting of the courthouse, there is a chance I will be able to reach my vehicle before my ex does. With this in mind, I decided to contact the dealership from which I had purchased the vehicle, and acquired a second key. As we had only received one key when we purchased the vehicle, I knew she would not expect me to even be capable of driving away in it. So, fast forward a few days to the court date. I had driven across 2 states to attend this court judgment appeal. With all my paperwork, written testimony, and key to the vehicle. I arrive approximately 4 hours prior to the hearing time, and patiently wait for the magic moment to come. Bad news. It was extremely anticlimactic. As she was a no-show. The judge summarily ruled in my favor, and the restraining order was dismissed. The judge then asked if I had anything further for the court, and if not, I was free to go. So I very politely asked me, Your Honor, it is my understanding that the restraining order/PO is lifted? Judge, yes ma'am. Me, so am I, at this time, able to retrieve my vehicle? Judge, ma'am, as the judge of this courtroom, I am unable to provide you with any form of legal advice. Me, oh, okay, I'm sore judge, however, if you find a seat in the back of my courtroom, my, secretary? Court recorder? I don't remember the term, will provide you with a signed order of dismissal for the restraining order/PO. If you were to be questioned by law enforcement for any reason regarding property or contact, it is best to have this documentation on your person. As the cancellation of the order may not reach the police system until close of business today. The way in which the judge had worded her response was very clear in intent. She could not specifically tell me I was good to retrieve my vehicle, but she was taking the extra time to provide me with the paperwork that gave me a legal opportunity to retrieve my vehicle. So I sat down, and after nearly 10 minutes, the court official that was designated with the task of typing and printing the paperwork, got the judge's signature on it, and brought it to me. As I put it in my binder of other paperwork, and turned to leave the courtroom, the judge called out to me. Judge, Mrs. Bean. Me, turning in mild surprise, yes, Your Honor. Judge, with a devious smile, good luck. Now I had to formulate a plan. See, as the ex-wife had not been present for the court proceedings, neither was my vehicle. I had the address for her boyfriend/boyfriend's parents' house. As it was all over the initial restraining orders list of protected properties. And she had accidentally left a notebook with it written upon it when she first left to be with the guy. I decided to utilize Uber to go to the address, and check if the vehicle was present at the address. Upon starting the Uber trip, I requested the Uber driver to wait for me at the address after dropping me off, giving her a quick summary of my circumstances and plan, to ensure that I had a witness present for the intended retrieval of my vehicle. Quite simply, to ensure that no false allegations of fictitious activities during the recovery of said vehicle would have a metaphorical leg to stand upon in court. The lady Uber driver was sympathetic to my cause, and agreed. Even going so far as to give me her personal contact information in the event I required her for a future court appearance. Upon arrival at the address I had available, the vehicle was, indeed, present. The Uber lady waited until I had acquired the vehicle, left the premises, and she followed me about 2 miles to witness I had left the property completely, and then she went on her way. Bless that lady, she was a saint. So, I make it about a half hour away, and my phone rings. I answered it, and it was my ex-wife's boyfriend, and as you can imagine, he was not happy. He rambled off several vulgarities, and other random insulting comments which I entirely brushed off. Then he made a very large, and unintelligent mistake. He said if I ever see you again, here, or anywhere, I will blow your head off. Now, I'm a veteran. I don't take very kindly on threats to my life. I was upset at him, I was upset at her, and I was just handed a gift-wrapped means of complete and utter destructive revenge. I immediately hung up with him, and dialed 911 to report a verbal threat on my life. I headed to the parking lot of a local big box store to meet the responding officer, and ensured I didn't leave until I had a case number, attached written statement, and the reporting officer's identification information. I completed my trip to my home state, and the following Monday, this was all on a Friday, I went to my local courthouse and filed for an emergency restraining order/PO. The judge that was available to hear my case for an emergency order was, interestingly enough, the same judge handling the divorce. She listened to the case I provided, reviewed the police report information I provided, and issued the requested emergency order. Well, my ex-wife was living with the guy in his parents' basement. The restraining order/PO issued by the judge protected myself, my property, and my spouse from him. See, we were still legally married, so I was legally able to list her as protected party. When the restraining order was served, he couldn't be within 600 feet of my, now, ex-wife. As she lived with him in his parents' basement, he wasn't the one that had to leave, she was. But she no longer had my vehicle. She lost her brand new job. She wasn't able to get to school, so she failed her college course, but was stuck with the student loans for it anyway. She was now homeless, vehicleless, jobless, kicked out of college for non-attendance, penniless, as she is atrociously bad with finances, and, to top it all off, she was nearly 4 months pregnant with his kid. Moral of the story? Don't piss off a lesbian veteran. I don't like to play games. I will go out of my way to avoid playing games. I will bend over backwards to make sure I don't have to play games. But if you force my hand into playing aforementioned games, I will not be the one that loses the game. Which is something I told her verbatim on our 3rd or 4th date. Guess she forgot.